Good day, YouTube. This is Jay Money with Falling Forward Financial. Just an update here on Intel. There's a bunch of new information out about them. I've covered them numerous times here on the channel. I have some shares of Intel for semiconductor. It's one of my biggest holdings. I've also done videos on AMD. Do not currently own any of AMD. I wish I would have kept them. I'll link that video in the description, but I had bought it for like $12.80 a couple years ago and sold it for about $18. And as you all know, if you follow AMD, AMD's well above $100 right now. So, but back to Intel, ticker INTC. I only have 4 shares here in Robinhood. I have more in some other accounts. Wish I would have sold these back there, but since then this one's just been coming down and right at my cost basis, what I paid for them. So but it's down over 22% in the last year, down over 3% in the past 3 months, in the past month down 2.48%. In the past week it's actually in the green. I don't know if that's a good or a bad sign. 6.66%. And here's a look at today. So it says it's down, but it looks like it's going up to me. So don't know what's up with that. But here's a dividend. So they've always paid dividend. Looks like it's 36.5 cents. So $1.46. So take that by this, and you get that. And if you don't know much about Intel, basically chips, communications, computer networking. So if you look at your computer, I'm sure you have an Intel sticker on it already. Just as I'm looking at this one, it's an Intel Core IS. So on the one where I'm making the video on. So this has been around since 1968, volume of 10.63 million, average of 43.29 million, with a market cap of 194.5 billion. So just a huge company. I call it a big dinosaur that needs to, they were going up for a while, but AMD's kind of went totally around them in regards to share price, and has kind of hurt them in several areas. Intel's just kind of like Walmart, just kind of sat back and took it all in, and now they're trying to play catch up in a couple areas. So 52-week low of 43.63, high of 68.49. So there is a little bit of about a $15 increase in there, but it is down again. So, but it's still got some room to run. So, and ratings on this one at a 53% hold. And here's the next earnings on April 28th, so we'll just have to wait and see. But as you can see, this one does pay quarterly, June, September, and December. And there's AMD right there, 123.35. So totally went around Intel on the stock price. So this is the article that kind of piqued my interest on this one. So we have the Tower Semiconductor, or TSEM. Intel strikes deal to buy Tower Semiconductor for $53 per share. And this is dated on the 17th. So if you have TSEM, you can list that in the comments. But it looks like they're going to buy them $53 per share in cash, using its fully diluted share count. This equals an enterprise value of $5.4 billion, or 3.6 times Tower revenue for 2021. So we will see what this does to the Intel share price. The acquisition will aid Intel's foundry strategy and give it capacity and expertise to pursue its expansion plans, particularly in the United States, where Tower already has fabs in California and Texas. So maybe this will be a step going forward for Intel and get it back up to the $60, $70 range. We'll just have to wait and see. Today, Tower reported revenues, earnings Q4 of $412 million versus $345 million in Q4 of 2020. So quite a bit of growth there, about 55, 67, almost $70 million in growth there, so very nice. So it looks like they're buying a positive going forward business. We'll just have to see how that goes forward after this takes place. So Q4 2021 gross margin increased to 24.3% from 20.2% a year ago and 22.1% in Q3 of 2021. Gross margin dollars increased 31 million or 44%. Pre-tax profit was 55.5 million versus 18.5 million a year ago. Taxes were 3.6 million in the quarter compared to 1.8 million last year. Here goes over a balance sheet, so feel free to pause and go over the rest of that information. Currently on Microsoft Bing, Intel as a hold with a 1-year price target of 54.40. Intel, TSMC, Intel and AMD halt shipments to Russia as part of U.S. sanctions. So I suppose that will hurt the stock price since we're not shipping over there, but we'll just have to wait and see how everything turns out with all of that. But they've all suspended sales to Russia in the wake of the U.S. sanctions over the invasion of the Ukraine. Services such as Apple Pay have already ceased working with customers for certain Russian banks. Now U.S. sanctions are being applied by processor manufacturers, most significant TSMC. According to the Washington Post, TSMC has suspended sales to Russia directly and to third parties known to supply products. The company reported an unnamed source familiar with the company. So I'll just have to wait and see what happens with this. I mean, this could be over today, could be over in a week, could be a couple weeks, could be a couple months. Who knows how it's going to turn out for sure. Just be a waiting game. So alongside TSMC, Intel and AMD and others are also halting sales. The Semiconductor Industry Association told the Washington Post that all of its members were fully committed to complying with the rules in response to the deeply disturbing events unfolding in Ukraine. So, unfortunate event, but that's just the way things go sometimes, so we'll just have to wait and see. Just be a waiting game. Intel's ambition with the foundry business gains credence amid geopolitical jitters, and this just came out 3 hours ago. Took the helm of Intel a year ago, and the price did go up on the stock when he did that, and that would have been a good time to dumped it and rebought it, but I didn't, so I just hold this one and just let it do its thing. As there's been a lot of lack of ambition about the semiconductor company's road back, and that's been that way for a while. So the chip maker provided a path to process leadership if Intel can execute flawlessly, something that has evaded the company over the past several years. It could return to leadership by 2025, which isn't that far off, but when you're talking a stock price and you want it to go up and make some money, that is a while. So it will be expensive, costing as much as $85 billion in capital expenditures over the next few years. With competitor AMD's market value recently passing Intel's. Wow, that says a lot. It felt like a good moment to dig into the tough questions. Not that the market hasn't been tough on Intel, because it has. So Geslinger's presentation at the event was on point. He focused on the company's strategy broadly and gave acute details on how it aims to meet the opportunities. And it seems like I went over all of that information in a previous video when he took over. But in 2020, 77% of the semiconductor manufacturing was done in Asia, led by Taiwan Semiconductor, Samsung, United Microelectronics, and Semiconductor Manufacturing International, while the U.S. and Europe accounted for 21%. The United States has seen its output diminished by 37% of the world's chips in 1990 and woeful 12% of 2020. So just going to scroll through the rest of this information. I'll go ahead and link my AMD videos in the description as well. But a lot of that sounds like a repeat of a previous video that I did, so just going to skip through that. Intel's details new Exxon chips for 5G networks, and this is just dated on the 28th. Today provided details on collection of future processors developed to enable the company's 5G network infrastructure and data center networks. Some of the more detailed processors will be part of the Sapphire Rapids Central Processing Unit lineup Intel plans to launch this year. Two new chips were the, I don't know if that's Exxon or Xi'an D. I don't know, it's not about my pronunciation, it's just about bringing the news to you, the company's special product line. So, Exion, I don't know, we're just going to call it Eon. There you go. Intel's detailed plans for equipping Sapphire Rapid chips with 5G signal processing command enhancement. The enhancements will be used on a basic level, Intel said. Why Intel is my top stock to buy right now, and this is 56 minutes ago. Intel has underperformed the broader stock market by a big margin over the past 3 years, thanks to a loss of its manufacturing lead to rival foundries, but the company's long-term guidance indicates that the turnaround may be in the cards. Though Wall Street didn't seem convinced about Intel's bullish long-term forecast issued at the company's latest investor meeting on February 17th, a closer look indicates that the market may be underestimating Chipzilla, and I've referred to them on past videos. Chipzilla meaning they're a big old dinosaur, they're just huge and just like Walmart, just laid there for a while and let Amazon slingshot around them with e-commerce, so it's kind of the same thing with Intel. Chipzilla's capability to turn its business around. After all, the Intel has shown signs of it could regain its mojo by building pressure on rivals such as AMD. We'll just have to wait and see. Let's look at some reasons it would be a bad idea to discount Intel's turnaround prospects. Intel investors should focus on the bigger picture. Investors weren't happy with Intel's 2022 forecast, which explains the 5% drop in the company's share price following its investor meeting. And just as I showed you, I've owned my shares for a couple years, and it's actually down about $1 or so per share. Company has guided for $3.50 per share in earnings for this year and on revenue of $76 billion. For comparison, Intel had generated $5.47 per share in adjusted earnings on $74.7 billion in revenue last year. Company's gross margin is expected to shrink by 52% or to 52% this year from the last year's level of 57.7%. Additionally, Intel estimates a negative cash flow of $1 billion to $2 billion this year, and not surprisingly, investors pressed the panic button looking at the 2022 forecast as its earnings are on track to drop big time this year. However, investors should forget that Intel has set aside $27 billion as its net capital spending budget for 2022. So they still do have some cash laying around, as you can see. That would be a huge increase over Intel's 2021 capital expenditure of $18.7 billion and nearly double the $14.3 billion capital spending figure in 2020. So Intel is doing the right thing by bumping its capital expenditure significantly this year. The developments of rivals such as Taiwan Semiconductor or TSMC. I've talked about them once or twice. Intel and AMD is the ones that I've talked about most, so and feel free to pause and go over the rest of the information there. However, Intel's chips have a superior process density, which would make it the 7 nanometer chips superior to AMD's 5, I think that's nanometer, NM from previous video offerings on paper. So Intel aggressive spending plan is likely to aid in the turnaround and crush AMD's resurgence in the CPU market from 2023. This explains why Intel is confident on an improvement in its financial performance from the next year. Intel's second-gen miners' efficiency second only to that of Bitmain's, and this just came out today as well, so just a couple minutes ago. So Intel's second-generation miner, dubbed the Bonanza Miner 2, is the most efficient on the market. According to an investor presentation filed in November by Grid Infrastructure, one of three firms known to have secured supply agreements with the chip giant. The new miner will reach 135 terahash per second, a measure of computing power, and electricity efficiency of 27, I think that's joules terahash. This makes it more efficient than Britain's latest model, an Ant miner, which delivers a hash rate of 198. So they're still doing a lot of good things. It's just the share price that we need to get up, and it's just been knocked back in regards to AMD running up, and they've just been on a tear for the last, I think, since 2018. So like I said, I'll link those videos in the description so you can watch those as well. But Intel revealed the details of the first generation of its mining chip at a semiconductor conference earlier in February, but the second generation that will be shipped to Grid, Argo, Blockchain, and Block later this year. So it's always good to invest in chip companies, semiconductors. As you can see, there's chips, there's semiconductors, there's the crypto, everything's computers. So just good to, not that I give tax, legal, or trading advice, I'm just stating the point of the need for chips, and you just can't go wrong by investing into some chip companies. So, but again, I don't give tax, legal, or trading advice. You'd have to pick your own, which is the best, whether it be Intel, AMD, or Taiwan Semiconductor, or all of them, and just diversify into each one of them. So Intel stock pops on upgrade to outperform at Northland. That's 2 months ago. It has popped, but it has came back down. So stock price chart pops on upgrade to outperform. Again, same info, nothing up to date. Over here on StockTwits, currently at 47.45, low of 43.63, and a high of 68.49. All that you need to know, shorts haven't covered a single share. So you can say that about this one. It's a good, steady company. It still pays the dividend. It doesn't really go much below what it is now. It did have the run up to 68, but I think that was just a test and a bunch of hype. Like I said, I wish I would have sold it. Must suck to be a Russian, the whole world hating you. More than a fat stack of Russian ruble now. Yep. Moving on over here to MSN Money, currently showing it as a hold. It's always showed this one as a hold. AMD usually shows it as a buy. This is showing a 15% upside to 54.55. I'm sure it'll get back up there. It has in the past, a high of 72, low of 40. So maybe it'll run back up after all the Ukraine stuff is over with. But you can see it was almost $70 at one point in time. It's lost about $20 per share. So it's going to take a while to break that $70 range, and currently at 43.63 for the low, so it's could hit the low again. It almost did last week, so we'll just have to wait and watch this one. But if you have Intel, AMD, or Taiwan Semiconductor, you can list that in the comments. Which one is your favorite, or if you have all of them, and how many shares you have and your cost basis. That would be interesting as well on Intel. And if there's any other stocks out there you want me to take a look at, go ahead and list that in the comments. And if you haven't smashed that like button yet, go ahead and hit that for me, as well as subscribing and hit the bell so you're notified of when the next videos drop. Again, this is J Money, Falling Forward Financial. Happy trading, happy investing, stay green. Cheers.